of human rights in Eritrea. Serving in the public or military service is a great and very honorable task. However, if not of voluntary nature, whatever its nature, the service must be of limited duration to avoid falling under the prohibition of slavery. We do encourage the government of Eritrea to swiftly review its position regarding the national and military services and to report on these changes. Finally, the rule of law is made of principles, sometimes unwritten, but always brought to practice by institutions designed by, elected, and accountable to the people. Article 25 of CCPR. The progress of democracy is needed worldwide, and Eritrea is responsible as any other state to see this happen. Thank you, Mr. President.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Human Rights Watch, you have the floor.
Mr. President, while welcoming Eritrea's response...
Je vous remercie. La parole est à Civicus.
Thank you. Civicus, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Eritrean Movement for Democracy and Human Rights, Eritrea Focus and Civicus welcome the government of Eritrea's engagement with the UPR process and for its acceptance of 131 UPR recommendations. We also welcome the declaration of peace and friendship signed between Eritrea and Ethiopia in July 2018 and the shared commitments to make progress towards achieving sustainable peace. But regional overtures towards peace have not translated into national policy and practices. Since Eritrea's last review, it has failed to implement any recommendations it accepted pertaining to civic space and fundamental freedoms. Instead, the human rights situation in the country continues to worsen, civic space continues to be severely suppressed, and serious restrictions to freedom of peaceful assembly, association and expression prevail. Mr. President, we are deeply concerned by the closure of 20 health centres administered by Catholic churches and the arbitrary arrest and detention of 4 Catholic bishops and of 141 Christians in June 2019, which followed a call by the Catholic Church for genuine dialogue and peace and reconciliation in Eritrea. Such actions illustrate the willful failure of the Eritrean government to implement EPR recommendations and improve the repressive environment for civic space and basic freedoms. We note with concern the lack of acceptance of any recommendations relating to special rapporteurs, which is necessary in a country that perpetuates human rights violations and abuses by government institutions with impunity, where activists, journalists and human rights defenders continue to be arrested and illegally detained. Mr. President, the Eritrean Movement for Democracy and Human Rights, Eritrea Focus and Civicus call on the government of Eritrea to immediately and urgently take proactive measures to implement all UPR recommendations, particularly pertaining to removing restrictive laws that undermine civic space and create an enabling environment for journalists and human rights defenders to exercise their rights to freedom of expression, peaceful assembly and association. Thank you.
Je vous remercie. La parole.
Thank you. I give the floor to Rado.
Président.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Given time restraints and the availability of the interpreters, we have to put an end to this meeting. We resume at 3 p.m. to finish our consideration of the outcome document of Eritrea's UPR. So we break now and meet again at 3 p.m. Thank you. I close meeting 27 of the 41st session of the Human Rights Council.